professional advantage. Last week we talked about negative reverse selling. It's one of the strategies to help you not look like a salesperson. The concept is this: if it looks like and sounds like a salesperson, people are going to be resistant because nobody wants to be sold. Yet all of us at some level need help buying. So the negative reverse selling process is really, it has to do with the art of disqualifying people quickly. And it could be something as simple as in the beginning of a conversation with someone saying, you know, as we get together today, I find that probably 6 out of 10 people will not end up doing business with us. So I just want you to know that it may be that we determine that we can't work together. It doesn't make sense to work together. Are you okay telling me that? I mean, think about it. When is the last time you had a salesperson say that to you, right? Most often, salespeople are pushing the features and benefits, and often for good reason. Most of us are very passionate about the business we're in. We do it because we love it. We have been schooled, educated in the services that we offer, and our brain tells us that you'll buy from me if you're impressed by me. You'll buy from me if you think if you think I know what I'm talking about. So the best way to get somebody to buy from me is to prove to them that I know what I'm talking about, which really couldn't be further from the truth, but it is what most salespeople end up doing. And by promoting yourself, you take the spotlight off the client. We recognize that prospects, clients, they have their concern is them. You are secondary to their issues and needs. And so negative reverse selling is really, it's really about being the opposite of what a traditional salesperson would be. A traditional salesperson is always closing. The Sandler trained professional is nurturing. So we've got some Sandler rules on this last page, page 223. Nurture, nurture, nurture are the 3 most important words in selling, especially when you're using a negative reverse strategy, because it can sound smart aleck, right? It can sound harsh. It can, if you say 6 out of 10 people who I interview will not end up doing business with me, you may be one of them. I mean, right there, I'm kind of feeling not okay, right? That sounds like you don't want to do business with me. Same words, tonality makes the difference. The reason we would say that is we want to take the pressure away. The Sandler process is about relieving the prospect from pressure, from feeling pressure from us. The pressure they feel should be pressure to take action to fix the problem that they have. And if we can help them, then we want to. So that's really what we're looking at. So when a prospect is neutral, we talk about 3 positions. Neutral, if you envision in your mind a pendulum. So if I have a stopwatch here, at neutral, it is probably one of the more difficult positions to identify. Because if someone is neutral, they may even sound positive. It could be, I'm interested in what you have to offer, but really, are they? So if over here is sold, and I want to move them to sold, the way to do that is pull them towards the negative. So that would be by saying something like, really, I'm surprised you are interested. What in particular are you interested in? So I'm pulling it away. Really, are you? And when I let go, it's going to swing towards the positive. Too much negative reverse selling isn't positive. So what we mean by that is when you're using negative reverse selling, It's easy to overuse it. It's not something that we're encouraging you to um, use as a club to beat people with. It's a strategy that you're going to use it's the truth serum. It helps people, prospects, defend your position. The thought here is when under attack, fall back. So you have in your roles, you likely have opportunities to deal with people who aren't happy. When somebody's upset with you and you justify yourself, McKenna, what typically happens? If I've got somebody on the phone who's upset with me and I start to defend myself, what happens?
It starts a fight. Both of you get defensive, and it leads nowhere.
Right. It's inflammatory. It will inflame the conversation. So when under attack, fall back. One of the things negative reverse selling can help you with here is by assuming responsibility, even though you may not be the responsible party. Somebody says to you, you were supposed to deliver this today at noon. It's 5 o'clock. I need it. Where is it? Under attack, if you say, well, I've got the delivery guy. He should be there any minute. That doesn't validate their emotion. So validating their emotion would be to say, I'm sorry that he hasn't shown up. If I were in your shoes, I'd be pretty upset. So now, if I'm on the other end of the phone, I'm starting to feel validated because you empathize with me. When under attack, fall back. You don't learn how to win by getting yeses. You learn how to win by getting no's. Let's throw the ball to Terry at Senior Edge Legal. Terry, what do you think that rule means?
I see it as we can learn from our failures. When you do something wrong, that's the best. You're going to remember that. As much if you hate to fail as much as I do, you're going to remember when you do.
That is so true. No, we don't learn great things or small things even by the successes we have. Successes will reinforce, but real lessons come from failing and learning through failure. Next page is the wrap-up of the negative reverse selling. So we're going to shift gears today, and we're going to talk about the next subject page is who said that. So in this segment, we're covering a psychological topic called transactional analysis. So transactional analysis is really the study of human transactions. There is a questionnaire in your workbook on page 228. And in this questionnaire, we're asking you to take time to answer these questions. And as a result of the questions, you're going to be able to come up with a answer. So let's just take a few minutes. I'd like each of you to answer these questions. Probably going to take maybe let's check in 6 minutes, see what happens. Joan, put the clock up, and we'll check in 6 minutes, see if you can get it done in that length of time. If you have already filled this out, you feel free to double-check your answers because we all change from time to time. Thoughts, Joan? Okay.
Just checking in to see if you need more time.
Nope. Yes.
Okay. We'll do 2 more minutes.
All right. Okay. Now, so transactional analysis, what you've done in this assessment is you're getting an idea of what your grand totals are in each of these headings. We're going to talk in a bit about what that means, what these headings mean. Initially, I want to just define TA or transactional analysis. It's really, if you think about what happens when you're walking. Let's say you're walking down the street and you pass somebody. You say good morning to them. Their response is good morning, right? There's a transaction. Now, same, you say good morning. They say good morning. You say how are you? You expect them to say fine, how are you? It's an expected transaction. If you say good morning, and they don't say good morning back, how do you feel? Not okay. Something's dissonant in the communication. Great salespeople are great communicators. So understanding the art of the transaction that occurs in communication is crucial to have a successful conversation with prospects and clients. To do this, you got to recognize that there are voices in their head that are programmed to act and react in a certain way. So these stand for, the CP stands for critical parent. The critical parent is that part of you, it's the first ego state that's formed when you were raised. First few years, you start learning terrible twos, what no means. You touch something, no, don't do that, don't do this. The critical parent is the rule giver. So that's where the rules originate. If you have a very high score in critical parent, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be if it's overused. You can't be a good manager if you aren't critical. You've got to be able to see what's not working in order to fix it. However, if you are critical in your delivery, you'll shut people down. You won't be a good manager because people won't be inspired by you. You're too busy being critical, which puts them down, makes them feel bad. They're not going to open up to you. So the next one, NP, that stands for nurturing parent. So that's the caregiver. So we have these two ego states that were formed early in our childhood. the critical parent, which was modeled after our parents' parenting of us, the nurturing parent, which was modeled after our parents' parenting us. Nurturing is, as we said earlier, the three most powerful words in sales are nurture, nurture, nurture. 70% of your selling should come from that nurturing tonality. Now, nurturing taken too far becomes enabling. And if you're in a customer service role, sometimes your enabling causes people to take advantage of you. So you've got to be able to have the boundaries that are set by the critical parent, the nurturing that is provided by the nurturing parent. Both of those together help in your communication, but neither one of them should be the governor or the ruler of the conversation. A is the adult ego state. The adult, if this was a board of directors, this might well represent your internal board of directors. The adult is the chairman. The chairman is the one who recognizes the other voices and channels them. So that adult is in the present. It's now. NC stands for natural child. So the natural child is that happy-go-lucky, playful, free-spirited child ego state. These ego states, NC, LP, and AC, are all developed in response to this parent ego state. This is where feelings, it's the child ego state is where you learned, you programmed how to respond to the parent. It's where feelings reside. Buying, when you're selling, the buyer is when they're buying in this child ego state. It's that ego state that says, I want. Now, the LP stands for little professor. The little professor is that mischievous child. Natural child is happy-go-lucky, playful, adventurous. Little professor is manipulative, game playing, knows how to get his own way, might pout, might have negative reactions. And then AC stands for adapted child. So the adapted child is the child that is compliant or adapts to the rules of the parent. So in most selling transactions, when you are telling, it's your critical parent telling the prospect's child what they should do. Nobody wants to be told what to do. So we learn through transactional analysis how to nurture clients into an appropriate relationship with us. So turn with me to the next page. We're going to look at some simple conversations. Here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to go through and in fact, let's do this as a breakout. In your breakout, I want you to talk about a conversation that became argumentative. I want you to capture what you said and then what they said in the boxes below. When we get done, we'll go back to these and we'll finish with what I should have said. So I want you to just capture what happened in this dysfunctional conversation so that we can have something to anchor our thoughts in our next segment. So, Joan, if you would, let's put maybe 5 minutes on the clock. And for our breakout sessions, we're going to have Terry, Bridget, and McKenna. You're going to be in a group together. We've got Zach, Steve, and Scott in a group together. And then we've got the restoration cleanup team together. Bernadetta, who all do you have with you in the room today?
It is Amaya, Gus, Tricia, and myself.
Okay, great. Welcome. Glad to have you all with us today. So let's take 5 minutes, talk about an argumentative situation, what was said, and how did it get inflamed? Go.
Hello?
Do one together. And you can each have one, but do one together if you have it. You have no conflict in your life?
Very little conflict, and if I have conflict, maybe I don't use them.
Huh.
I mean, there's obviously conflict, but I don't have. I can't use them.
Huh. Interesting. Not with a client or unhappy client?
I mean, I run into unhappy clients all the time, but I don't necessarily. I don't argue. There's no argument. Maybe I am arguing right now.
Could be, right?
So that's maybe I need to be more thoughtful,
Aware. Yeah.
more aware.
Yeah, it does require a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah.
This whole topic is very important.
I'm trained to be very like for example, I hate
Yeah.
That's how the conversation goes. You know, I don't.
They say. All right. Are we back, Joan?
I don't know.
All right, we're back. So let's talk about these ego states and how they are a programmed response. 70% of everything you do and say today will be done on autopilot. You're automatically programmed because of efficiency. So the way your brain works is once you have figured out how to handle something, you handle it the same way. It's automatic. The way you are currently handling your transactions may not be the best way. Fair? So there could be something that's going on. Like, let's take, for example, my wife, Joan, is a very high in that compliant child. If you ask her to do something, her programmed response is yes. And she's the hardest working person I know, and she puts in probably 70, 80 hours a week. She's working at home, she's working here, and it's because she can't say no, right? If she would say no to everybody but me, if she would say no, that would help her have more free time, but her programmed response is to say yes. Now, I'm guessing there's quite a few of you in the room that have that same personality style. You're very compliant, you want to help others, you're going to say yes, and you may say yes to your own detriment. You overcommit, you stretch yourself too thin, and who suffers? Well, generally you, because you're going to work hard on behalf of other people to honor your commitment, and then you're going to feel guilty that you're not able to, right? And so here comes this dysfunction happening within our own mind. So learning how first to be aware of what we're doing, and then second to find out if what we're doing is working or not. There are likely things that you do that are not working. So let's talk about these two parental ego states. The nurturing parent has the feelings of protecting, loving, encouraging. Its thoughts are about hard work. Everything will be okay. Don't worry. Never give up. And its behaviors are smiling, outstretched arms, concern, hugging. That's that nurturing parent ego state. The critical parent ego state is self-righteous, intolerant, demanding. When you are presenting to your clients, you are actually engaging this critical parent because the critical parent is about telling. It's very black and white. Don't, do or don't, good or bad, always, never, right or wrong. It's about structured rules and critical thinking. And tonality is something you cannot fake. So jot that down. You can't fake tonality. If you are by nature critical, so my highest score is in that critical realm. I can't fake nurturing. I have to feel nurturing first. So getting to the point of being able to feel nurturing is really changing a position. I have to tap into this ego state that has been imprinted. This nurturing parent, we all have examples of nurturers in our life. So that model of the nurturer can help us understand what it is to be nurturing. Next page. If we look at the child ego states, so there's 4 child ego states. The natural child, that's the I want, I wish, I can. Fun-loving, insecure, curious, inventive, behaviors, laughing, playing, touching, tears. Next is the adapted compliant child. The thoughts here are love me, don't leave me, help me. The feelings, insecurity, dependence, fearful. And the behaviors, compliant, cowering, downcast eyes. The adaptive rebellious child, thoughts are no, I won't, never. Frustration, anger, rebellion, tantrums, pouting. You see these exhibited in clients when they're upset, right? You probably see elements of these exhibited with you when you're upset. The little professor is beguiling, deceptive, coy, ruthless, win at any cost. And then the next page gives the adult ego state. So the adult ego state is where we want to live. It's in the now. So the thoughts are who, what, when, where, why, and how. The adult asks questions. In Sandler, you're trained that 70% of the time you should be actively listening. 30% of the time asking questions. It's being in the adult, being in the present, being in the now. The feelings of the adult are based on reality and trust. Emotions live in the child and in the parent. And then the behaviors are active, concerned, pondering, patient. The adult ego state is that place where you are aware but not emotionally hooked. So let me throw the ball to, let's go to Zach. Zach, you've been involved with Sandler maybe about 6 months. Would you explain to the group what you think is meant by emotionally hooked?
Having a feeling of an investment from your perspective.
Good. Can you give me an example of being emotionally hooked? How do you feel, Zach, when someone tells you what to do? Annoyed. See, that's an emotion, right? That's an example of getting hooked. How about driving? Are you a passive driver or active driver?
Probably passive.
Okay. So, do you mind getting cut off?
Not if it doesn't really affect me too much.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got to slam on my brakes and drive over into a ditch, I'm not happy. But
yeah, see, this morning I'm driving to work and there's a motorcycle behind me. And now this is the little professor in me. He's revving his motor because he thinks I'm going too slow. So what did I do? Slow down. And now, Joan didn't know that. So, and then I'm going slower in the gap between the car in front of me, and I'm looking at this guy, and he's getting all kinds of worked up, and he's revving his motor. We're coming up to a stoplight. I'm slowing down, and he floors it, gets in the non-passing lane, and revs his motor right past us just to annoy me. And then he stops, and then so I roll my car up within inches of his tire, right? So what's going on here? I'm emotionally hooked. I'm hooked by this guy's driving. And guess what? He's emotionally hooked by my driving. The game is being played out, and it's a past reaction. So we have this rule in Sandler. The sales call is never between you and your client. It's between your parent and their parent. See, the parental ego states there are battling, critical parent. The child ego states are warring against one another. So let's do another breakout. Having read through these ego states, share an example of when you were emotionally hooked into misbehaving, something similar to what I've gone through. Or perhaps, if you can't think of that, think of a time when you were taken advantage of. Okay, emotionally hooked or taken advantage of. Give you 5 minutes on that conversation. Go. doesn't. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
That makes me laugh.
Because you're. All right, time's up. So now, in Sandler Online, we have built an Excel spreadsheet that is designed. It's got a page of instructions, some summary page, and then you create a page for each of your team members, put an X in the box, and that populates the spreadsheet. The value that this has is it will help you build a tool that you can use to analyze your team. So this is our company profile, 20% adult, 21% nurturing parent, 15%, you can see the percentages. So it gives a fairly balanced makeup. But when we get at the graph page, here's where it's really telling. So the green, this is me. I win the prize for the most critical and least nurturing. So somebody who is most critical, least nurturing, you won't hurt my feelings, McKenna, but what do you think that person's like?
Extremely aggressive.
Good. Anything else?
Rude, harsh, unpleasant to be around.
Right, right. And so if
But I get it. Someone who gets it done.
yeah, maybe somebody who gets it done, but in spite of themselves, maybe not because of themselves. So when I want to achieve something, I have to have the self-awareness that says, okay, Jim, nobody wants to be criticized. And you can criticize without words, right? Facial expressions, tonality. If people will respond, do you believe that people respond? What's that they say? Draw more flies with honey than you do vinegar, right? So it's that nurturing is where you'll find the power of selling. Being critical does not enable you to close. So look at the yellow is Joan. So Joan's critical parent, fairly low. Her nurturing parent is her highest, and her adult is her second highest. So Joan has a hard time with conflict. You know, she would just as soon not engage in conflict, and I actually think conflict's fun. So the first few years of our marriage was a little bit tense because she thought she married a maniac. Right, Joan? Now she knows she did. So removed all doubt. Understanding your own natural style, and then here again, look at my rebellious child. So very high rebellious child, very low adaptive or compliant. So it starts to make sense of who I am from a different perspective. And if you overlay your results on the top of a teammate's or someone else's, you start to get the picture of some predictable results. So what I'd like you to do in this next breakout, how much time do we have? We have 10 minutes. Okay, we'll do it quick. We'll do a 5-minute breakout. I want you to compare your scores. Put them in, you can put them in a graph similar to this, just sketch it out with a teammate. So those of you that are joining virtually, you're going to have to just share numbers, and as each person shares their numbers, just graph them out so you can see how you would respond. And I want you to look specifically at page number, this one, 245, and think about the ego state that's involved, what is the traditional response, and how would you modify it using Sandler techniques of questioning and nurturing? Okay? Go. 5 minutes. What's that? Oh, yeah, so the score is up here. So that's a 1, 2, 3, and 4. Huh? Yeah. So if you just think about, I think the total of the graph, you remember how many Joan, the total was? I think it's like. No. If you go to the graph, it goes up to 40. Okay, time's up. Are we back, Joan? So we're barely scratching the surface here. If you haven't had success in totaling this up yet, Joan, as we mentioned, there's the spreadsheet, and Joan is going to send it out. Are you? She's going to attach it right now so that you will be able to download it. Those of you that are here, she'll email it to you. What I'd like you to do is take it, make a copy of it, and if you have family members that you live with, have them take the quiz. If you have workmates, have them take the quiz. Because what we're after is the first stage is self-awareness. So we're going to start to learn why we are who we are. Then we're going to learn how can I modify my behavior so that I get a different results. So let me ask the question. Let's go to, how about Gus in Restoration Cleanup? Gus, when somebody says to you, how can your company help me? What ego state would you guess that is?
I would say nurturing parent.
Could be nurturing parent. And how would you tell?
Well, they're asking for help, for one.
Yeah. And a lot of it's by tonality. So you can say the same question, what can your company do for me? And it can be critical, right? It depends on the tone of voice. So if you think about communication, only 7% of communication is the words you use. 34% is tone and tempo, and the remainder is body language. So this week, what I'd like you to do, complete the assessment, practice by discussing. I want you to identify a conflict you've had with one of your coworkers, and I want you to work through analyzing your responses based on the graph, right? So it's easy to, as you begin to see your scores juxtaposed to someone else's, you'll start to get a better understanding of your natural response and how what you're doing may ignite problems instead of solve problems. My little professor this morning on the way to work created anxiety between me and another driver. It's a manipulative game, I realize that. And is it healthy? Not really, right? Doesn't help. Can lead to road rage, which can lead to worse things. So recognizing your own natural, and see, all of that happened without me consciously being aware of it. It wasn't until I got to the stop sign and started creeping up on him that I realized I was emotionally hooked. And I was pissed at that guy, and I was letting his response influence my day. And I had to let it go. So I broke into a chorus of, let it go. Let it. Just kidding. All right, let's do some quick lessons learned. Gus, kick it off for us. Take us around the room with your team. What'd you get out of today?
Well, like you said, don't get emotionally involved. That happens to us frequently because we drive a lot and we drive with crazy drivers. Crazy.
Like me.
So that's what I took today.
Good. Amaya?
I like learning about the tonality, how it helps you distinguish between the ego types when you're talking to somebody.
Nice. Great.
Take that away.
Great. Tricia?
I really don't know right now.
That's okay. That's all right. It's an evolving process. We're going to cover this again next week. Bernadetta, what's your takeaway?
I think it's interesting to see how things can change, having been through this segment before and kind of being able to compare the old and the new, but then also using it as a group to, within this small group, see where we fall on the scale in terms of helping us relate to each other better.
Yeah, and helping us predict the best way to engage. McKenna, what's your takeaway?
I think she fell off.
Okay. Bridget?
Actually, I realized that I have one of each child, and I'm just like Joan, and I appreciate it. And my husband is similar to you, Jim, so thank you.
I guess that proves opposites attract.
Oh, very much true. It's known in my office. They said, wow, your husband's totally opposite of you.
All right. How about Zach? What's your takeaway today, Zach?
Go through the exercise of I said, they said. I probably need to do that more often, just to kind of assess why did that happen the way it happened, and what should I have done differently? Because I don't intend to make someone mad sometimes, but I do.
But I do unintentionally, just by my tonality or body language. Good. Scott? Smiley.
I think that I learned that you can always go back, and if something went wrong, you can analyze it and break it down and really learn from it, I guess.
Good. Steve?
Instead of just trying to sweep it under the rug and move on.
Right. Ignoring it. Yeah, good. Steve?
Somebody already mentioned it, but the tonality thing I thought is key. I really didn't understand before about when we talked about the egos and trying to get somebody into the child thing, so it makes more sense now, the fact that the response that I give, understanding where they're at, and the response I give back to them takes them out of them being the critical parent into the child state.
Right.
I think that's pretty big.
Good. Intuition. Terry?
I think just revisiting these different ego states and a work in progress, continuing to recognize how those different situations can get me emotionally hooked and what to do about that.
Right. Yeah, next week we'll talk a little bit more about what to do about it. Nate?
I found out that I am definitely a nurturing parent.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to take that away, and I'm glad that I am, because it looks like about 70% of selling is based on being nurturing.
Right.
So,
Right.
One thing that I saw, though, is that it said that not a lot of your child should go into selling, and I do bring quite a bit of that in. I laugh a lot with my clients, and I try and
We
kind
say
of
leave your child in the car. That doesn't mean you can't laugh with them, but just make sure it's not the needy child. Because if you need your client's approval, you won't be good at getting them to buy from you. Scott?
Can you tell me what kind of car you have?
No.
I don't want to come up behind you.
All right. You ride a motorcycle?
No. A couple of people have mentioned the tonality. I'm aware of the body language because if the arm's closed, you can tell if they're engaged. But I never really pay attention to how they say things. And that's what I'm learning today is pay attention to that tone.
And Tyler, grab that microphone if you would. Shout it loud. What'd you get out of today?
I learned mostly, I think, that I lead with my adults, so I think that's good.
That is good.
That being said, I probably lay down a little bit more than I should just because I just totally want to avoid confrontation and would just rather get to the end result. So probably I need to stand up for myself maybe a little bit more even.
Good. We'll talk about how to do that next time. And Ty, you get the last word.
It looks
Hold it
like,
real close and loud.
It looks like I am a little professor. Very high on the little professor.
Interesting. Yeah. Somehow that's not really a surprise, is it? All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Remember, if you measure, you'll manage it. Practice on this because it really will help you develop your team and develop the ability to read body language. Good. You're welcome.
All right, good.
Yeah, see you next time. You know what I should do next time is I have some audio clips of critical parent manager versus a nurturing parent manager. Here, I'll just write it on that. Don't save, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess so.